The area in which I feel I've grown the most in is CSTP number 3, Understanding and Organizing Subject Matter for Student Learning. More specifically, 3.5, Using and Adapting Resources, Technologies, and Standard-Aligned Instructional Materials, including adopted materials, to make the subject matter more accessible to all students.
Don't feel like you have to follow the status quo. You are you for a reason. You bring something to the table. And don't feel like you have to recreate your table to look like everybody else's table. Your difference might be what some kid is looking for to help them to excel. So don't change who you are just to fit in, because you don't look like everybody else, or you don't teach like everybody else, or you may not do what everybody else, but you may reach those kids like everyone else could not.
During my time in the induction program, I wanted to explore how we can ensure the next generation science standard curriculum is both accessible and equitable to all our culturally and linguistically diverse learners. More specifically, I wanted to focus on how will providing culturally responsive pedagogy and feedback-driven metacognition strategies framed in universal design for learning promote the learning outcomes of students. Throughout my experience in the classroom, I have seen how the use of culturally responsive pedagogy, scaffolding practices like learning maps, as well as feedback-driven metacognition in the form of self-assessment, and even daily quizzes, how these all fit into the larger tapestry of equity in the classroom. And I've come to find that UDL are the stitches that hold these different segments together, all working together to create an effective environment as well as an equitable learning opportunity for students. Some key findings from my inquiry were a 32% increase in the number of students who had a level of mastery on their unit exam, as well as we saw an improvement on the written portion of the exam as well. My students benefited greatly from my growth during the inquiry process. One way is through retrieval activities. This involves taking material students have already learned about and having them actively reconstruct that information. This helps improve their metacognitive monitoring and helps them see how accurately they know something, and help them become better judges on how to study and what material to study. Students have also benefited from the implementation of understanding by design, and this was seen in providing students agency to choose how they were going to demonstrate their understanding. This could be also by giving them an option of what science text they want to read that day in class. This helps enhance relevancy, as well as giving students, again, that agency to engage with the material as they choose and express their understanding of the material by any means. And that was done by creating a rubric that can be applied to anything from an essay to a PowerPoint presentation to a video. And students were able to take advantage of that and complete and demonstrate their understanding through different outlets.
There's no average learner out there. Everybody learns in different ways, and the way that we learn and the way that our brains function is as unique as our fingerprint.
My mentor gave me some great advice, and that was to really play up my showmanship when doing the lab demonstrations. And so I took into full character, full lab gear, crazy science goggles around my neck just for show. And I really just kind of captivated my audience in a way that I wasn't connecting to before. And that was one of the greatest things that helped me grow as a teacher, is to also be able to have and exhibit the passion for learning in a way that's going to excite my students. My next steps as a practitioner are to continuously evaluate how students are performing in my class, by going through the inquiry process. What can I change differently to improve upon what I learned from last year? Go through the inquiry process, assess, look at the data, and get feedback from that data and other colleagues as well to continuously grow and continue this process as a lifelong learner.